I'll go live. Hello, good morning. It is early November 2021. I'm here with friend Max GREGORICH from Gage Motorsports, and we have one of his latest cylinder heads right here. And we met about November of last year, wasn't it? About this time.
About this time, yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, we proceeded to get his project going, and I've done a lot of the usual V8s, and recently, about 2 years ago, I did a project for 24 hours of Daytona Mercedes-Benz team for their racing operation, and I did about 7 different cylinder head modifications for their 24-hour and 12-hour Sebring efforts. But anyway, from that extreme kind of racing, 24 hours of Daytona, to drag racing, now to this is really the first time I've done work with basically single piston cylinder heads. So anyway, I'll let him say how we started, how we met.
Well, okay. I was in search of inspiration for the cylinder head, and as I was going through some internet activity, I happened to come across a post that Ben made, and I read the post, and it was very interesting about the directional flow bench testing, and I thought that was very interesting. But what was really interesting that caught my eye is, as I scrolled down through the comments, some of the names of the people that were asking questions are some of the top builders in the country. So I said to myself, I've got to meet Ben. He seems to be the guru that everybody else is asking questions of. And they had some kind of a cryptic phone number that I thought might have been England or something like that. Yeah. So it took me another 2 or 3 hours to find a way to PM him. So I finally just sent him a personal message, and lo and behold, a couple of days later, he responds to it. And that's how we got together. And he thought the project that I was working on was pretty interesting, and it was something different for him, a challenge for him, or at least so he says. It turns out it wasn't a challenge for him. It was a piece of cake for him. But the collaboration between the two of us generated a cylinder head now that I believe, knowing what the competition does, we pretty much have the cream of the crop with this head now. And that's how we met, and that's the result of it.
Yeah, at that point, I paid a visit at his place up on the East Coast. And when I showed up there, I was very impressed with, he's got a dyno there, flow bench, complete machining capability. How big was that shop? It's pretty big.
The shop was about, the part that you saw there was about 5,000, but we have another 15. It's about 6,500 feet.
Yeah, 6,500 feet of pure horsepower there in a single
and we
engine
have another
arena.
new dyno now, too.
Correct. Now they have a new dyno. But anyway, we proceeded, and I looked at the cylinder head, and it's different from what I am used to with the V8 world. And the first thing we've noticed is that when you cannot discern the obvious difference between the intake and exhaust, it rings bells with me. And so I focused on that, but I didn't make any determination until I can put it on my flow bench and find the numbers. And when I was done, the heads are very good, especially the Gage Motorsport that he's made several. Yes, different versions of these, right? Upgraded.
Well, we're working on a second version of it right now.
Right. And the one I had improved drain back oiling and thicker castings all over the place. So it's very impressive. You know, you do not discount the fact that since they're racing small cylinder engines, doesn't mean they're not really up to date. But they have the same valve train issues, power issues. In fact, they turn a lot more higher RPM than we do. You know, I mean, you guys go as high as what? Over 12 grand or something?
Not over 12, but there are some people that are running, around 11.
Wow.
11,000.
Right. Yeah.
Most of the guys, they're probably running Somewhere between 7,500 and 9,500.
Okay. But yeah, that being said, you know, they're up there, and it's impressive. And he's got a lot of victories to his credit, so he's very well known in the industry of this kind of racing, go-karts basically, right? Oval track, road
Well, we
racing.
raced everything from go-karts to sprint cars.
Wow, that is kind of, yeah. And his son is a very accomplished driver with lots of victories. I saw the trophies and all that. I go, okay. You know, I've dealt with many, I'm not going to say the names, different shops or different manufacturers. And usually you have the owner, and then you have the engineers or advisors. But seldom do I have the owner hands-on, like Max here, with his products. And that shows you the seriousness of the effort when the main guy is really involved. I know one very famous guy, I will tell you later who he is.
Okay.
Very famous out there in the industry, but he really doesn't know very much. You know, so, but he's got a lot of products, but it's actually designed by others that he paid for and stuff. So there's really no hands-on. But anyway, that's when you dealt with so many in the industry, there's very few. But coming back to Gage Motorsport, we come up with some pretty good design that we're able to get significant power, basically.
We're talking about 25% more horsepower.
Yeah, from the competition. So I think at this point in time, when you get 5%, that's a jump. Or maybe 8-10%, but we're up to 25.
Well, close to 25.
25% with all the changes that, you know, basically what I did was I gave him the basic direction to go, and he's very capable man himself. And then he went from that point on, basically what we call, should we say the name of this sport? Should we say the name of this sport? But anyway, I came up with a port modification that I showed to him, and basically what we ended up with is he took it from there and refined it, because I am quite unfamiliar with how much port volume they run in there and their racing operation. So thank you very much.
It's convenient for him.
So basically
Store it if you need it. You take them out.
we ended up with thank you.
Turn it sideways.
We ended up with some insights into the cylinder head, and we're not at liberty to say anything at this point, but quite a bit. Anytime you get 15-10%, people will kill for that number. You know?
Yes.
And if you get about 15%, you're on a roll. So we got quite a bit above that. So I am happy, and to me that is what really gets my attention, is the challenge of trying to improve something. And Max came in the right time, and I visited him on the East Coast, and we talked quite a bit. First time I met him.
Yeah, we spent the entire day together.
Third day, and looking at him, showing me all the casting and stuff. So this is unfamiliar territory for, well, I should say, I did work on a mini bike from Japan about 15 years ago, and they gave me their casting to evaluate, and what actually happened was the casting was good, and then, but what missed out was when I used the factory valves and put it on the new racing casting, it even improved better. Their port was correct, but their valve was inferior. Now I'll tell you, with Max here, he looks at all angles there. Okay, last night we were talking about combustion chamber. I listened to what they have been doing, and I gave my suggestions. So we go back and forth, and at the end of the night, or really every time we talk highly technical things. I think by the time the new head comes out, it's well thought out, and I'm sure that everybody's going to be quite impressed. And I would like some of my friends that I know in Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, the Philippines, running basically Honda 196, you said?
This is a Honda 196 or a Chinese clone of it.
Okay, so if you have one of those engines in Asia and you're interested with this Gage Motorsport heads contact him directly and inquire, you know, because we would like you guys to give it a shot out there, because like a lot of you out there always follow my post, and but I could never really work with you guys directly. Here with this Gage Motorsport heads, I'm hands-on with this company, so I give my suggestion, he takes it up and applies it, and I'm really surprised that I'm very, very happy that I collaborated with the Gage Motorsport team. In fact, more testing, right?
There's going to be some more testing
Yeah.
that's going to take place on racetracks over the next few weeks. So we're going to collect some data from there. But dyno results right now have shown horsepower well in excess of 20% more. And we don't want to go to the exact number because we don't want to toot our own horn here.
Oh,
but
yes.
it's well in excess of 20% more horsepower over the next best competitor. And track testing is going to be happening over the next few weeks. And we're actually testing them against billet heads, which are twice the price, 3 times the price. And we expect to do very well. We're actually hoping to win the race out of 24 cars. 1 or 2 are going to have cast heads. The others are all billet heads. So we're very excited about showing what we have on that day. And that's a Thanksgiving Day race, and that's actually going to be live streamed, so we'll be able to see that.
I have to check that out.
Yeah, and if you do want to contact me, let me just give you the contact is Max, M-A-X, at GageMotorsports.com, and Gage is spelled G-A-G-E.
Okay, so you guys got it, and hopefully keep in touch with me and with Gage Motorsports, and look us up on Facebook. I don't know. Do you have Instagram? I don't have TikTok.
I don't do any of those.
Yeah.
I just have Max GREGORICH is my title on Facebook.
Correct. Yeah.
And there is a Gage Motorsports page on Facebook, but that's my son Eric. He is the father of my grandchildren, who have also brought home, I think, about 5 championships so far.
Wow.
So between my son and my grandchildren, we've got 11 championships in that family.
That is
And
impressive.
we've raced everything from go-karts, motocross, sprint cars.
Well, that is an impressive resume. There's nothing better than homegrown, what do you call that, expertise. Your instruction is lifetime. Okay, so like I said, I was very impressed, and keep up with us, and for now we're keeping this under wraps, okay, because we're still under development until the new casting comes up. But it's very, very promising. In fact, a lot of his competition are scratching their heads right now and thinking, where's this going to end up at?
Right, yeah, exactly.
So I think later on we will show a little bit more, because like anything in this sport, everybody catches up. All right, and Max is determined to stay ahead of the curve, and me helping out in this process, to me, it's really it's an honor working with him, you know, with Gage Motorsports and Max in particular, and I hope we expand from there, and just keep in contact with us, and this is basically till the next time. Thank you very much. Thank you, Max.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
And the honor is mine, by the way.
I would say likewise. Okay, guys, we'll talk to you later. Okay, bye-bye.
Hi, this is Max from Gage Motorsports. I'm here today to talk to you about our new big valve head and the valve combinations that are available and the materials that go into it. So first off, let me say this Gage Warhead, if you're going to be ordering one with a big valve, which is at least a 32 millimeter intake, then you'll also notice, at least for now, we're welding these before we do the machining on them. We put a little weld right there, and we put a little weld right inside here. And the reason we do that is because we've changed the angle of the port somewhat, and it breaks into places where it shouldn't be breaking into. So we fix it before we break it. Anyway, but for standard heads, which would be like stock appearing heads and stock heads, there's no weld on those because we're not breaking into anything. So the other thing that comes with the head for people that are running Tillies or flat slide is we do have a adapter that is a adapter for the manifold for a Tilly or for a manifold for a flat slide. And here's an example of the, let's say, the flat slide manifold, okay? And the way this works is we have this is just one that I took apart for a Tilly. One side we have a gasket that is port matched to the head. So you have this, and then it's also port matched on this, in this particular case, to the Tilly, and we give you the gasket for that. Oop, we probably should put it on the right way. Okay, so these are port matched, and so the two gaskets and the manifold adapter comes with this head. All right, that being said, let's talk about the valve sizes. Now the valve sizes on the exhaust side start at 23 millimeters. So if you're running, let's say, a stock appearing class, that 23 is a little bit smaller than you can get on any other head because we cast our ports a little bit undersized. And that gives you a stronger fuel signal during that overlap period to get that air fuel stream in motion a lot faster. So if you're running an intake of 25, 27, 28, even 29, a 23 will work much better than a 24. Okay, so for the exhaust sides, we do have a 23, a 24, a 25, a 27, and a 28. And you can order a head in any valve combination that you want. So if you want to run a 32 intake and a 25 exhaust or a 27 exhaust or a 28 exhaust, you just tell us what it is that you want and we'll machine one up for you. All the ports are CNC'd. The combustion chambers are all CNC'd. All the programs are ready to go. It's just a matter of plugging in the right combination of those programs and we'll spit out the head. Now the next thing I want to talk about is this gasket surface. If you look at this, this is a lot taller here than it is on a stock head. We added an extra 100 thousandths, so we also brought the combustion chamber up that extra 100 thousandths, which means that we have to use a longer valve stem, and we're using a valve stem that's 150 thousandths longer, so that you actually end up with an extra 50 thousandths of spring height, so that you may not have to cut the spring pockets. But if you do have to cut the spring pockets, even with a 32 millimeter intake port that's been tilted, and we did tilt this, you can see there's very little material here, but the port has been tilted up from this to this, and we'll get into that. I'll show you that in a few minutes. So if you do have to cut this, you still have about a little bit over 100 thousandths that you can go deeper without breaking into that port. So that being said, let's take a look at that port. I mentioned we changed the angle. When you look down this port, you're gonna see something similar to what you would see if you look down a Hemi head. You can almost see the entire seat. All right, can you see that? You can almost see the entire seat down here, which is very similar to a Hemi head, except that it's not a Hemi head, and you can run bigger valves without worrying about valves slamming into each other, which is a problem on Hemi heads. You're also looking at a completely different port shape. We call this our W port. So, because you're looking at a fin that's generally seen on the other
side, on the roof rather than on the floor. 4 years of research and development is what brought us to this point. Now, how did that work out for us when we tested this head? Let me explain what we did. We took this head, or a head, and we brought it to a third-party dyno, third-party tester, third-party computer, and we ran 3 tests all in the same day, at the same temperature, at the same humidity, and we tested our head against 2 other heads that were done by head builders that you may or may not know. You know, I'm not going to mention their names because I happen to know who they are, and I like them, and they're wonderful guys, and they do a great job. But we did test against them, and on this particular day, on this particular dyno, and on this particular motor, one head made a little over 20 horse, another head made a little bit over 21 horse, and we put our head on. As a matter of fact, it was a similar head to this, the 3225, and we made a little over 26 horse. So there's a huge number there. And I don't want to say that everyone's going to get this, because it just depends on the cam, it depends on the day, it depends on all kinds of things. It's just that on that particular day, that's what we got. So I don't want phone calls going, you know, you're full of it, and yada, yada, yada. This was third-party numbers. I never publish my own numbers just so I don't get into these, what do they call them, peeing contests with people that need to get a life somewhere, I guess. Anyway, this was a third-party number. So you've seen our port now. It looks a lot different than what you're used to seeing, but it is 4 years of R&D that got us to this point. Now, when we look inside this, you're also going to see what we call our F1 seats, which is a copper-based seat, and the valve guides are manganese bronze. It also comes with instructions on how to break the seats and the valves in, which is very critical to the way they function. So, but you can see we're using the best materials available to make the seats, to make the guides. The next thing people have asked me was, what are these 3 grooves for? You got one here, and one down here. And what that basically does is when the piston's coming up for the compression stroke, it helps force the fuel mixture into the center of the chamber. But it will only do that if there's at least 42 thousandths of squish area clearance. Meaning, when the piston is at top dead center, there needs to be 42 thousandths between the top of the piston and this surface right here. Okay, the gasket surface. You gotta have at least 42 thousandths, otherwise those grooves don't work and they're worthless. Now, the other thing too is with this extra 100 thousandths, and by the way, if you look, you can see we matched this entire shape between the first and second fin. No matter which way you turn it, you have that shape that goes all the way around this, all the way through to the third fin, which on all the castings that you get out of China or even Japan, you don't have that here. So we have a lot of beef behind this to keep it from warping, okay, to keep it from doing anything under stress. Okay, so that's kind of important. Now you understand what the 3 grooves are for. The last thing I want to talk about is the oil hole, which is this guy here. People start wondering, what is that hole for? Well, some people say it's an oil drain, but you know, there's also pushrod galleys, it's an oil drain. But what really happens in this hole is when the piston goes down on a power stroke or even on an empty stroke, when the piston goes down, it builds up pressure in the crankcase. That pressure starts to come through and it blows some pressure through this hole. Now we've taken that hole and we've stopped the drill at a certain point so that when the pressure comes up here, carrying a little bit of oil with it, it then shoots straight across and covers both valves. What that does, because the crankcase has a lower temperature than the head temperature, and also that this hole is running right next to the intake port, and if you're running methanol, this is extremely cold in this area. You're blowing nice cool air and oil across these springs, keeping the spring tension higher because heat is the enemy of a spring. If you run the spring too hot, it will lose performance. This hole becomes significant, especially if you're running long races. So that's what we did with that little oil hole. Now, I do want to just mention one more thing before I sign off. Is we do have a person that was testing our heads on the racetrack down south in a couple of different states for some big money races, and he was racing against all billet heads with our cast head. He qualified 5th out of, I think, 13, 14, maybe 15 racers that were all billet heads. He qualified 5th. And in the race, he had just started to pass second place and was halfway past him when second place came down on him and hooked his body, and they both got dragged to the back. But had he not done that, and had he continued the race, there's a good chance he could have won that race. But even if he didn't win, just passing for second place in a field full of billet heads, and this was a big money race, so these were not clowns that were down there. This was like a 5,000 to win race. He was walking away from the billet heads. So I'm very proud of our cylinder head, and I'm sure that you will have a lot of fun running this head. And let me give you my phone number. You can call me at any time to discuss. That's area code 702-845-7181. And keep in mind, even though that's a Las Vegas number, I'm actually on the East Coast. So if you're partying out in California, I may be dead asleep while you're still partying. So just be aware of the 3-hour time zone difference. But I will answer that phone anytime it rings, unless I'm on the phone. And that's, again, area code 702-845-7181. Or you can contact me through email, which is max@gagemotorsports.com. That's M as in Mary, AX @gagemotorsports.com. Or you can PM me on Facebook. Just look up my name, Max Gregorich. That's last name is Gregorich. And I hope to hear from all of you soon. Thank you and good night.